Tahoe by name, Tahoe by legend. The Indians call her Big Water of the Sky. From Thunderbird Lodge to Vikings home, the Funnet Island Tea House and the Captain's Ghost, to the graveyards at Glenbrook where the steamers went down, and the Queen of the Lake, oh, she's resting now. Cross on Telago when the snow falls, it's an autograph left and placed by the gods. And no matter what you've seen, and no matter where you're from, when you call,
Hi, this is Darin Talbot, aka Mr. Tahoe.
And Paul Hamilton, flight instructor.
We're going to take you above and around Tahoe.
So come fly with us.
Let's go!
Lakesport Trike entering runway 27 for immediate takeoff, Carson. Okay, so here we go. And off we go. All the way down. There we go.
Another beautiful view.
Yeah, beautiful.
Of Carson City. Nice view of the state capitol down there. Beautiful day. Unbelievable. Just clear. Super clear. It's Darin Talbot, and we're here at Hang Gliding Tahoe on a beautiful day here in September, looking at the second largest alpine lake in the world, Lake Tahoe. Second largest Lake Titicaca, which is on the Peru-Bolivian border in South America. Much larger than Lake Tahoe, of course, not as pretty. Lake Tahoe is 22 miles long and 12 miles wide, has 191 square surface miles, which is pretty impressive. But it's really just the unbelievable amount of water within Lake Tahoe that is mighty impressive. Larger than the 10 largest man-made reservoirs in the United States combined. There's as much water here as half of Lake Michigan. Now think about that. Lake Michigan like an ocean compared to Lake Tahoe. You can't even see across it, yet it only has twice as much water. That's because the deepest part of the lake is 1,645 feet, and the average depth is nearly 1,000 feet, making for some 39 trillion gallons of water if the United States tomorrow were to simply run out of water. Lake Tahoe, all by itself, could satisfy every single water need in this country for nearly 2.5 years without running out. 1/10 of an inch evaporates off the surface every day. That's enough fresh water to satisfy the complete water needs of Los Angeles for a full day, and it's not even noticeable. If you were to take Lake Tahoe, simply tip it over like a massive bowl of cereal, it'd cover the entire state of California in 14 inches of water. And if you emptied it out tomorrow, it would take nearly 700 years to fill it back up again with the natural precipitation process. So here we are in beautiful Glenbrook Bay. Glenbrook Bay is an exclusive private community, but its history is very deep when it comes to Lake Tahoe. Completely connected to Virginia City and the Comstock Load. D.L. Bliss had a lumber mill here in Glenbrook Bay that would cut all the trees down. Those trees would be taken over giant bull wheels over the hills and then put on water flumes. Those water flumes would take the logs over to Carson City, where they'd put them on the V&T Railroad and take them to Virginia City to help build the mines. Now, the interesting thing that happened here in Glenbrook Bay is that D.L. Bliss would build a big resort right here. And we can see remnants of the old docks from the old days where the SS Tahoe was actually docked here, that actually launched here in 1896 to much fanfare. It would be the undisputed queen of the lake for nearly 35 years. The SS Tahoe was a 200-passenger luxury steamboat that would take people all around Lake Tahoe. It also had a lucrative mail contract to deliver the mail around Lake Tahoe when there were no roads around Lake Tahoe. It would lose its mail contract in the 1930s and fell on hard times. The military would come wanting to commandeer the ship to make it into tanks for the war effort for World War II. But they decided to scuttle the ship right here in Glenbrook Bay as a memorial to bygone era of steam traffic here in Lake Tahoe. They tried to drop it at only 50 feet of water so that we would be able to see the hull of the old ship. Sadly, it sunk to over 400 feet water depth, and that ship is forever at the bottom of Lake Tahoe. A lot of people wonder why Lake Tahoe is one of the clearest bodies of water in the world. Why is it so clear? There are three factors. One, 40% of the water in the lake falls directly on the surface in rain and snow, so it's never corrupted to begin with. Two, there are 63 little tributaries around Lake Tahoe, little streams that feed the water to the lake very gently. No major rivers running into Lake Tahoe. Also, once the water gets inside Lake Tahoe, it takes a very, very long time before even one drop will actually make its way out the Truckee River out of this lake, so the water stays right where it is. But the most important factor regarding the clarity of the lake is the granite-based rock and soil that surrounds the entire lake. 100% granite. Nature's fantastic filter. The cleanest soil on Earth. So as the water makes its way through that granite soil, it is literally being filtered, even before it enters the lake. So once it's in the lake, 99% pure. Now, should you drink the water? I don't know, folks. I'm a tour guide, not a nutritionalist. Coming up straight ahead is Cave Rock, one of Lake Tahoe's magnificent landmarks. Actually, not a rock at all, but the ancient stem of a volcano. The significance of Cave Rock are the caves carved out several hundred feet above the shoreline of Lake Tahoe by the waters of Lake Tahoe during the last ice age. Those caves were occupied by the Washoe Indian tribe. In the old days, the Lincoln Highway went from Placerville to Carson City. It was the only way to get there. Named after Abraham Lincoln, the Lincoln Highway had to make a turn right around Cave Rock. Very dangerous. There was stories of wagons falling off the side into the lake. Now, the Indians believed wholeheartedly that the water babies, or the monster in Lake Tahoe, lived underneath Cave Rock. So that added a little bit of drama to trying to get around Cave Rock in wagons and cars in the old days, before they actually made tunnels into Cave Rock like they do now. There's a lot of old rock dams that were built here to act as breakwaters to stop the waters from coming in and crashing against the shoreline. A beautiful shot of Zephyr Cove, straight ahead, home of the MS Dixie II paddle wheeler, the biggest boat on Lake Tahoe. We can also see the Tahoe Queen, one of the other classic paddle wheelers on Lake Tahoe. Zephyr Cove is a campground, also a restaurant, cabins, boat rentals. You name it, you could do it right here at Zephyr Cove. Very popular spot in the summertime. Oh, I do believe they're looking up at us. What do you think?
I think so. A lot of people do say, oh, yeah, I saw you flying around there. And
I actually had a lot of people that were asking me what I was going to do the next couple days, and I told them I'd be up here today, and they're like, oh, we'll be looking for you. I said, you'll know if you see me.
Oh, yeah.
Now we're coming around to Round Hill Beach, a fantastic beach that a lot of people really don't know about. Kind of one of the real secret treasures to the South Shore. We need to keep some of those secret treasures. There's a meadow here off on the left. That is where the opening scene of the Bonanza TV show was shot. The Four Horsemen ride out in the beginning of the TV show. One thing that's so fantastic about being above Tahoe the way we are right now, up in the air, is that you can see the amazing depth changes in the water. Lake Tahoe has shallow spots for sure, but most of the lake is very deep. When you see it drop off, it just drops off like that. And boom, down several hundred feet, almost everywhere, very quickly. Of course, Round Hill is called Round Hill because of the round hill. If it was a square hill, it probably would have been called Square Hill. Oh, this is great. Fantastic view of the South Shore here in Lake Tahoe. Nevada Beach right below us here, and in the forefront you can see Edgewood Golf Course in the distance. Of course, the big casinos located on Stateline here in South Lake Tahoe. The reason why the casinos are here on the South Lake is because of the border of Nevada and California here on the South Lake, and also because of the Lincoln Highway, which was the only road that even came close to Lake Tahoe in the old days. The most famous casino is, of course, Harvey's, where Harvey Gross had the very first gas station between Placerville and Carson City. If you needed to get gas, you had to stop at Harvey Gross's gas station. Of course, when you did, you played a little blackjack. Maybe you threw a few coins in the slot machines, and before you knew it, you were hooked, and you wanted to stay right here in Lake Tahoe. Since then, of course, Lake Tahoe has grown up and has become very, very popular right here on the South Shore. We can see here on our left, Heavenly Ski Resort, the biggest ski resort in the United States in terms of acreage. Much of Heavenly Ski Resort is not even actual ski runs, but just tree runs here on the South Shore. Heavenly is unique because it's located in 2 states. Half of it's in California and half of it's in Nevada. Straight ahead as we continue along the South Shore, you can see how shallow the South Lake is. One of the reasons why they continued to develop the South Lake is because it's so flat here. But also, this part of the lake happens to be the natural filter for the lake. Much like a filter is on a swimming pool, the South Shore is the natural filter for Lake Tahoe. Now, over the years, they've developed South Lake so much that there's been a lot of sort of political unrest about how all the development has gone down. But the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency came in along with the League to Save Lake Tahoe, and they've done a very, very good job of controlling and mandating development here in Lake Tahoe, as well as protecting the lake and the clarity. The clarity of the lake is mainly protected by UC Davis, which actually has a research center in Incline Village and on the North Shore, and they monitor and protect the clarity of the lake through a small disc that they put on the side of a boat called a Secchi disc. Now, in 1968, you could drop that disc down to almost 100 feet and see it clearly. In the early 2000s, that disc was only seen at about 68 feet. Now it's back up to about 75 feet, so they've done a pretty good job of controlling and maintaining the clarity of Lake Tahoe, which is an ongoing process. And you can see how shallow Lake Tahoe is right here, and we're drifting almost into October now. And what that means is all the rivers, all the tributaries are almost at a trickle now. There's no snow left to melt on the mountains, so the lake level is going down drastically by the day.
Okay, here I'll gain a little altitude here, so over the Tahoe Keys.
In the distance, you can see the great Mount Talak. Talak is not the tallest mountain around Lake Tahoe, but without question, the most beautiful. No matter where you go around Lake Tahoe, you always know where the great Mount Talak is. Famous for its snow cross that forms in the springtime right in the middle of the mountain. One of only 2 mountains in the United States with a natural snow cross, the other mountain being Holy Cross in Colorado. We're coming down now along Pope Beach and Camp Richardson. It's a very, very unique part of Lake Tahoe. Camp Richardson's really the historic campground in Lake Tahoe. It is probably the most popular campground during the summer months and probably the most family-friendly campground. Has a fantastic restaurant on the beach called The Beacon. Also has a hotel, cabins, has a fantastic bike rental, campground, ice cream parlor, coffee shop, general store and deli. And most importantly, it's right here in the most beautiful part of the South Shore in terms of Mother Nature. A lot of great hiking, mountain biking, and anything an outdoor enthusiast would want to do is here. Plus a lot of history right here in this part of the lake. A lot of the trees we see from here going to Emerald Bay are actually first-generation indigenous trees, which is pretty unusual because most of the trees were cut down to support the Comstock Load in Virginia City during the 1860s. Straight ahead, you can see Baldwin Beach. Baldwin Beach is a really nice beach, very secluded right now. September, October, a great time to be in Lake Tahoe. There is nobody around. You have the whole place to yourself. As we get ready to come into Emerald Bay is widely considered the second most photographed single scene in the United States, behind Niagara Falls. I always find that statistic a little bit disingenuous, since the picture of Niagara Falls that the people are taking from the American side is a picture of Canada, Horseshoe Falls. A spectacular view of the most beautiful bay on a lake in the world. Emerald Bay. Emerald Bay is called Emerald Bay because of the color of the water. It's about 1.5 miles long and 1/2 mile wide. This bay was created by a massive glacier. Lake Tahoe was created by 3 massive glaciers. Emerald Bay is one of them. One of the interesting parts about Emerald Bay is how was the island created? Why is it there? 2 theories. One is that it was a piece of rock so hard that the giant glacier simply was unable to move it out of its way. The other theory is that it was a piece of the mountainside way up high, broken off, and carried down by the glacier slowly over hundreds of years, and then deposited right where it is now. Either way, God was having a particularly good day when he made Emerald Bay. At the back of the bay is Vikings' home castle, and at the top of the island is the tea house, built in conjunction with the castle, 1928-1929. It was built by Laura Josephine Knight, who was a widow from a major commodities tycoon in San Francisco. She felt the bay looked so much like a Norwegian fjord that she decided to build her castle in true Scandinavian architecture. This amazing roadway you see here is probably one of the most spectacular drives you could possibly take. You're actually driving on top of what is called the spine, or a moraine. A moraine is a debris mountain created by 2 giant glaciers, Cascade Lake to the left, Emerald Bay to the right. When the glaciers created Emerald Bay, they had to leave their debris somewhere, so it created this debris field, or a moraine. Straight ahead, you can see the slide in the hillside. That was on Christmas Day, 1955. They tried to make the road bigger and wider over the years, but Mother Nature had other plans, destroying the road. You can see the unbelievable depth, even in Emerald Bay. 300 feet deep in the center of the bay. Nothing shallow about Lake Tahoe. Now, Laura Knight might have built her beautiful castle, but the first man ever to live here would become legend. He came here in 1863. His name was Captain Dick Barter. He would actually live in Emerald Bay for 10 years. He never left the bay, except, of course, for one thing, and that was a bottle of whiskey. He would row in his boat 17 miles to Tahoe City. He'd hit the Tahoe house, get fully drunk, fill his boat with bottles of whiskey, and begin to row 17 miles back to Emerald Bay. On one of his journeys, he fell out of his boat and nearly drowned. And if it weren't for that whiskey, he would have probably certainly died. But it kept him warm enough, just long enough till he got back to his cabin, where he remained unconscious for several days. When he awoke, he realized he had a bigger problem, as all of his toes were completely frostbitten and unsalvageable. With there being no doctor in Emerald Bay, the good captain did the unthinkable. He amputated all of his toes with a carving knife. Now, most people would think the story ends there, but the captain was proud of his toes. He kept them in a box. And when people came to the island, he would tell his stories of how he dodged death. And he'd take the box out, you know, and he'd shake the box, and he'd say, "Them's my toes." One of the most amazing things about the fall in Lake Tahoe are the sugar pine trees that have the foot-long pine cones hanging off of them. Amazing time to be here in the fall to go collect some of these spectacular sugar pine cones, which they actually sell in decor shops all over the world. Straight ahead, the Rubicon Point. The Rubicon Point is significant because it's the single steepest, deepest shelf in Lake Tahoe. It falls 1,400 feet straight down into the water. The #1 scuba diving location in Lake Tahoe, if for no other reason, to see the unbelievable abyss. There was a scuba diver that went off of this point in 1986. Actually, it was 2 men. One of the guys lost control of his oxygen. The other man tried to help him with the oxygen he had, but eventually he ran out of oxygen too, and had to make the fateful decision to leave the man down there and go to the surface to save himself. 21 years later, 2 more scuba divers would go down and find that man still in his scuba diving gear, perfectly preserved as if he went in yesterday. Because the lake is so cold and so deep, it preserves everything perfectly. Wow, look at that.
Is that interesting?
Unbelievable. So deep right here, it's just unbelievable.
You can see how it just drops right off.
Drops straight off. Again, the average depth of Lake Tahoe, roughly 1,000 feet. So this amazing depth change you're seeing is just typical of Lake Tahoe. Shallow, but then deep very quickly. On the Rubicon Point was the highest lighthouse in the continental United States. It was actually built to make sure the SS Tahoe steamer wouldn't run into the Rubicon Point.
That's an interesting shelf, huh?
Yeah, that is really interesting how that shelf goes off like that.
Yeah.
One of the great things about being above Tahoe like this, to seeing the lake by hang gliding Tahoe, is that you get to see things you just cannot see from the ground. Particularly the amazing color of the water. Why is the water so colorful? It's because it acts as an actual prism to the sky. It reflects the color of the sky perfectly. That's why the deeper parts of the lake are the blue hues of the prism. The shallower parts of the lake are the green or turquoise or even yellow hues of the prism, depending on how shallow it is. Oh, this is really nice.
There's a couple nice colors right there, huh?
I love that. That's just unbelievable color. I always say that Lake Tahoe is like being in the Caribbean in the mountains, because it's so hard to describe the color of the water. It's so reminiscent of something you'd see in the tropics. But then you see the pine trees, and you know you're in the mountains. Now straight ahead you can see Meeks Bay. Meeks Bay is actually controlled and run by the Washoe Indian tribe. One of my favorite beaches along the west shore. Very secluded, nobody around this time of year. Fantastic campground, amazing cabins, and unbelievably beautiful water of Lake Tahoe. Very shallow. The water's warm there even this time of the year. One of the best parts about the west shore is that it's the most secluded, most quiet part of the lake. Not only this time of the year, but even in the summertime, it's more quiet on the west shore than it is pretty much anywhere else around the lake. Most people really don't know much about the west shore, other than the fact that it's there. Kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Little pile of rocks.
Yeah, there's a pile of rocks out.
Yeah. Another interesting part about the west shore is looking at the geology of the land itself. Not a lot of big rocks here. Not a lot of really nice beaches, very rocky beaches. Once we get over to the east shore, you're going to see how incredibly different the east shore is from the west shore. Actually, all sides of the lake are really different. The south shore very flat. The north shore is much more rugged. Straight ahead, you can see Chambers Landing, the oldest bar in Lake Tahoe. Built in 1863, this small little cabin on the dock here has been a fantastic bar for many, many years, and one of the most historic places to go. Home of the Chambers Punch, which is said to be the first real popular cocktail here in Lake Tahoe. Others have their own version, Garwood's Wet Woody, the Rum Runner at the Beacon. And an amazing view of Homewood ski area straight ahead here. Homewood is the only ski area that goes all the way down to the lake level. Most of Homewood is over the mountain and on the other side, so it's really a hidden treasure, Homewood, because it has a lot of northern exposure. So when it snows real hard here, people go to Squaw Valley or Alpine Meadows or North Star or Heavenly, and they forget about Homewood. And 2 or 3 days later, the snow is still very good over here. I probably shouldn't reveal that secret. And Obexer's Marina, one of the oldest marinas in Lake Tahoe. Yeah?
Yeah, they used to have a seaplane operation here, too.
Really?
Yep.
Straight ahead, you can see this mansion down on the shoreline here. That is the site of the movie Godfather Part 2. Winner of 6 Academy Awards and widely considered the best sequel of all times, winning Best Picture as a sequel. You may recall Fredo's last fishing trip, the attempted assassination of Michael Corleone, the big boat parade and live orchestra right on the grass, all filmed right here in Lake Tahoe. And that's Eagle Rock right there.
Okay, we'll fly right over it here, okay?
You can actually see some people sitting at the top up there, a great hike. You park your car on the side of the road and just hike right up to the top of it. Wow, look at this. How you doing there? Woo! Beautiful. Beautiful trees along the west shore here too. A lot of the trees along the west shore weren't cut down as part of the Comstock Load, so there's more indigenous trees over on this side of the lake than the other side of the lake, and that's just because the east side of the lake was much closer to Virginia City. Interestingly enough, Virginia City is completely tied into Lake Tahoe. It's the main reason why Lake Tahoe was not made a national park. In 1849, they discovered gold in California, but eventually everybody found the gold and there was no more gold to find. Everybody was waiting for the next great bonanza. That's why the TV show was named Bonanza. Well, in the late 1850s, they discovered gold outside of Virginia City. Not a lot of gold, but enough to where people were pretty enthusiastic. Now, when they found that gold, what they didn't realize is there was tons and tons of this blue-gray sludge that they had to move out of the way to get to the gold. Well, somebody got up the inclination to have some of that blue-gray sludge analyzed and realized for every ton of that blue-gray sludge was $1,500 worth of silver. What they realized is that the gold wasn't the gold, the silver was the gold. And everybody came rushing in the bonanza of 1861 to Virginia City, which would become the Comstock Load, the biggest silver deposit in the history of the world that would finance the Norse effort to win the Civil War. $400 million worth of silver pulled out of the hills. That's 1860 prices. That would be worth billions and billions of dollars today. Now, the interesting thing about Virginia City is that Theodore Roosevelt would come here during his National Parks tour, would consider making Lake Tahoe a national park, but they cut all the trees down to build the 2.5 miles of mines underground. That decision, that fateful decision to cut all the trees down, would ensure that Lake Tahoe would not become a national park. And as we swing around here, we can see this long pier. This is site of the original Tahoe Tavern Hotel, built in 1901 by Dwayne L. Bliss, the man that would also build the SS Tahoe steamer. It sadly burned down in 1961, but the original Tahoe Tavern was without question the most beautiful hotel in Lake Tahoe, much like the Alawani is to Yosemite or El Tovar is to the Grand Canyon. They never rebuilt the hotel because they couldn't rebuild it the way it was. The Truckee River is right here in Tahoe City, the only river leaving Lake Tahoe. Now, the Truckee River is a terminal river because it literally ends in the middle of Nevada, creating what's called Pyramid Lake. Along this stretch, if you go back into this valley, is where you'll make it to Squaw Valley, USA, home of the 1960 Winter Olympics. Let me tell you a little bit about Squaw Valley and the 1960 Winter Games. Squaw Valley, perhaps the most improbable Olympics of all time. Our story starts in the early 1930s when a man by the name of Wayne Polson would come to Squaw Valley to do some fishing and hunting. He was so overwhelmed by what he saw that he felt that it had to be a ski resort. He would say that God made the runs himself. Well, he would acquire some 2,000 acres. All of Squaw Valley, including the mountains and the meadows, much of that land is still owned by the Polsons today. In 1946, a man by the name of Alex Cushing would come on a 4-day train ride to Squaw Valley, and he would break his ankle on his first day at Sugar Bowl. When he was sitting on the deck, he heard Wayne Polson talking about a skier's dream, Squaw Valley. Wayne took Alex Cushing to Squaw Valley to show him the mountain, and again, Alex Cushing felt that it had to be a ski resort. He would go back to New York City, muster up some $400,000, and start the Squaw Valley Development Company in 1949 with his partner Wayne Polson. Wayne and Alex would have a bit of a falling out, so much so that Polson would want to part ways. Alex was left with the mountain and 6 acres in which to forge his dream. He saw an article in 1951 talking about the bids for the 1960 Winter Games forged by Reno, Nevada and Anchorage, Alaska. Alex thought, what a great opportunity for Squaw Valley to get in on this. He decided to make a 10 by 10 foot scale model of Squaw Valley that had all the new infrastructure put into the model, and he had that moved over to the IOC. The IOC was so overwhelmed by this model that they would eventually award the 1960 Winter Games to Alex Cushing in Squaw Valley, a ski resort where 60% of the mountain had never been skied before. 1 chairlift, 1 rope tow, a small lodging facility, and a place that didn't even have a sitting mayor. Unbelievable story. Now, Tahoe City is also probably the most pedestrian-friendly town around Lake Tahoe. Great shopping, great restaurants, the gateway to many of the ski areas here in Lake Tahoe, Squaw Valley, Alpine Meadows, Sugar Bowl. Nice 9-hole golf course over here as well. That's actually was built as part of the Tahoe Tavern when the hotel needed a golf course in the old days. It's only a 9-hole course. Now straight ahead we're seeing Carnelian Bay, the big marina, where they actually house many of the old wood boats that are very famous here in the 1920s during the Great Gatsby age, the romantic boats of the 1920s here in Lake Tahoe. You can see this empty space against the hillside right here. When you get out on the lake, it looks much like a Liberty Bell. A lot of people wonder why those trees aren't right there. This whole area was a rock quarry. Way back in the old days, they quarried a lot of the granite rock right here along the shoreline, and much of the rock that was quarried right here was helped to build the Thunderbird Lodge along the east shore. George Whittel, who would build the Thunderbird Lodge, would take these giant barges, put the rocks on the barges, and then take them over to the Thunderbird Lodge where he built his chateau. We're coming into Kings Beach straight ahead here, and then of course Crystal Bay Point. Kings Beach was called Kings Beach because of a man named Joe King, who would win much of this land from George Whittel at the Thunderbird Lodge. When he got the land, he decided to rename it Kings Beach. There's also a famous golf course over here on the left called Brockway. Brockway is probably the most famous golf course in Lake Tahoe because all the Rat Packers, including Bing Crosby and Bob Hope, would play golf on this golf course. In 1932, the first ever Bing Crosby Pro-Am was played right there at Brockway, which would lead to the very famous Bing Crosby Classic, which is on the PGA Tour today. Kings Beach was just awarded a major award for the best public works project under $50 million on a small town in California. They've redone the town, all the walkways, new lights, new bike paths, and the town is really transformed. Oh, this is great. Interestingly enough, straight ahead is the deepest part of the lake. Right off of Crystal Bay Point, 1,645 feet deep, could swallow the old Sears Tower whole easily. And also we can see on the left up here the famed CalNeva Resort. It's called CalNeva. That's Cal for California, Neva for Nevada. Half the hotel in California, half the hotel in Nevada. It was built in 1926 by a man by the name of Robert P. Sherman. He built it to schmooze his real estate clients. He figured if they looked at the fabled blue waters of Lake Tahoe, they would sign on the dotted line. He did a lot of business till his hotel burned to the ground. He had it rebuilt with 500 men in 30 days, just quick enough to get the casino open again so everybody could lose their money. But it wasn't until 1960 when the most famous person of all would buy the property, Frank Sinatra. Would build the Frank Sinatra Celebrity Showroom and a helicopter pad that was used to bring the mafia here in the middle of the night so the authorities didn't see them. Marilyn Monroe would come to the CalNeva many times. The story goes that in 1962, the last place Marilyn Monroe was ever seen alive was right inside the Circle Bar here at the CalNeva. She was escorted back to her room, but then she was transferred to Los Angeles and then later found dead inside her apartment. John F. Kennedy and Robert Kennedy would both come to the CalNeva. You can't ask for a better story than this. Presidents, mafia, the most famous entertainer perhaps in the United States, and the most famous sex symbol in American history. Now this is Crystal Bay, all straight ahead, a beautiful bay, and we are looking dead north on Lake Tahoe. You can't get any more north than Incline Village. Incline Village is the town you see in the distance here, in the top 5 wealthiest towns per capita in the United States. We don't even know how many billionaires live in Incline Village, but we do know that the billionaires are buying out the millionaires. And the houses they build here in Incline Village are unbelievable. Incline Village is called Incline Village because the mountains going up here are such a dramatic incline that in the old days when they cut the trees down and tried to take them over to Carson City, they had to use bull wheels on such a steep incline that they named the town Incline Village. If you own a house here in Incline, you have access to 3 beaches, a ski resort, 2 golf courses, a tennis complex, and a recreation center. Many of the houses here in Incline Village are the biggest houses in Lake Tahoe. Houses that are nearly $50 million or more right here in Incline Village. The reason why they do that is because the tax situation in Nevada is much better than California. They make the residents here no state income tax, better property taxes, better estate taxes. And these houses, of course, have what I believe to be the best view of Lake Tahoe, looking all the way straight down the gut of the lake. Straight ahead, the Hyatt Regency Lake Tahoe, the really beautiful hotel here on the North Shore. They have a great dock that's right out here. They have a really neat bar on the end of it during the summertime. They have boat valet. It's a beautiful place to stay. Now these docks you see in the distance here are really the docks of the most rich people here in Lake Tahoe. Unbelievable. Wow.
Beautiful, huh?
Just amazing, huh? Just incredible. Look at the pool house there. Oh my God, it's insane. Now we're coming along the east shore of Lake Tahoe, and one of the biggest things you notice right away are the giant granite boulders. These boulders litter the east shore everywhere you look. 2 reasons why they're here. 1, the giant glaciers that would create Lake Tahoe pushed from the south to the north, pushing much of these rocks this way. But also tremendous volcanic activity happened on the north shore that exploded in an array, littering these giant boulders all along this side of the lake. But they certainly make for what I believe is the most breathtaking part of Lake Tahoe. The nice part about the east shore is there's 27 miles of shoreline here that are completely undeveloped thanks to one man, George Whittell, who would build the Thunderbird Lodge. So this side of the lake is actually owned by the National Forest Service and will never be developed, ever. Straight ahead is Sand Harbor and the Lake Tahoe State Park. It is the state beach for Nevada. George Whittell had planned on building a very, very beautiful hotel on that beach, but thank God he did it. Now it's part of the Park Service, and it is widely considered the most beautiful beach in Lake Tahoe. It's actually 3 beaches. The boat ramp beach, Divers Cove in the middle, and then the Long Beach on the other side. The interesting part about Sand Harbor is it's like a big sand cape, like Cape Cod. All the sand got pushed down here and put and windswept into this little bay, creating this beautiful beach. Home of the Lake Tahoe Shakespeare Festival as well.
I can do a circle here.
I love this. This is great. It's a good day to be on the beach here in Lake Tahoe. September, the best month of the year. They have a wonderful visitor center down here. But some of the biggest granite rocks that are littered on Lake Tahoe are here at Sand Harbor. Unbelievable color and contrast. Beaches are so pretty here, man. This is unbelievable. That is so cool, man.
Awesome, huh?
I'm a spoiled man. Straight ahead, you can see the Thunderbird Lodge, probably the most infamous address here in Lake Tahoe, nestled along the undeveloped east shore. You can take tours of the Thunderbird Lodge out of the Visitor Center. George Whittell built the Thunderbird Lodge in 1937, had plans to develop the entire east shore, but woke up one day and said, you know, it's kind of pretty around here. I don't want to do any of that. So thank God, George. It's an amazing property. has a gigantic boathouse that houses the multi-million-dollar Thunderbird yacht. A card room that is actually used to play poker in, where he and Howard Hughes would play poker into the wee hours of the morning. George Wattell was a bad poker player, and when he would lose, he would often go missing into one of the many underground caves that he built, 600 feet of underground caves that only George knew about. There was a trap door in the shower of the bathroom of the card house that went with a spiral staircase down to the caves. Now, George Wattell worked for the Ringling Brothers and Barnum Bailey Circus and trained wild animals. He didn't have a cat or a dog as a pet. He had a wild lion named Bill that did all his negotiating for him. You can see those cages, the three of them right there. Wow, a beautiful view of the Thunderbird Lodge. The tour is a 2-hour tour of Thunderbird Lodge, and you can get there by the land or the lake. Wow, look at this swimmer.
Oh, way out there.
He's going for it. He's like, I got it.
Way out there.
By himself, too. Now, Dreyfus of Dreyfus Investments would buy the Thunderbird Lodge, and after he bought it from George Wattell, he would sell much of the 27 miles of shoreline to the National Forest Service. It was later in 1998 bought by Del Webb Corp for $50 million. Now it is part of a preservation society where they give tours, and they also, of course, rent it out for weddings and private functions. Fantastic location. The one thing that's great about the East Shore are the beaches that are so secluded, even hard to get to. Some of them you have to actually hike down considerable distance, so there's great payoff when you get there. This beach we're going to see straight ahead here is called Chimney Beach. They call that because there's an old chimney on the beach from an old cabin that burnt down many, many years ago. Now this stretch along here is where all the secret beaches are. Even the nude beaches are along here. These beaches are hard to access, but they are without question the most beautiful beaches in Lake Tahoe. The only way you can get here is by hiking way down or by coming on a boat. We have Secret Harbor straight down below us here, and then Whales Beach ahead. See if anybody's nude down there. There's a nude beach right there. Woo! Yeah, right on. Look at these little cabins. I love those little cabins.
Little tiny ones.
Unbelievable. All those cabins run on propane. There's no electricity to them. And as we come around this corner ahead, one of my favorite beaches in Lake Tahoe, it's called Skunk Harbor. This beach is very hard to access, very remote, very secluded. We often don't like to talk about this beach because we want to keep it a secret. See that old cabin down there? Of all the areas on Lake Tahoe that are completely secluded and undeveloped, this particular stretch right before Dead Man's Point is probably the most remote part of the lake. Very hard to get here. Dead Man's Point, of course, is home of the most shipwrecks in Lake Tahoe. The SS Tahoe steamer was scuttled here, but many of the other steamships of the old day were also scuttled here as well. I'm not exactly sure why that is, but that's why they started to call it Dead Man's Point. A lot of people wondered if it was called Dead Man's Point because of Captain Dick, who died over near Emerald Bay, but that is a falsehood. But Dead Man's Point is the really big, beautiful peninsula here on the East Shore. And we're now coming back around on Glenbrook Bay again. Very exclusive Glenbrook Bay. You cannot just come down here. You have to either be a homeowner or you have to have access through a homeowner to come down here. It's the only private community like that here in Lake Tahoe. I love these remnants of these old docks.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Really cool. That's Shakespeare Ranch down there. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
one more circle here before, because we're going to probably get it kicked around a little bit, getting on back here. Climb up here a little bit more here before we head on back.
It's like a huge accomplishment for me because I'm super afraid of heights.
Are you?
Yeah.
Well, we got that cured here.
Yeah.
I guess, huh? Yeah, lose a little altitude here.
Carson traffic, a late sport trike, 7 miles southwest, inbound 9,000, Carson.
Boy, it's amazing how warm it's getting all of a sudden.
Yeah, all of a sudden.
And late sport trike, turning short final, 9er, full stop, Carson.
I always think about flying is how long it must have taken you to be comfortable to do that. You know, because, you know.
A lot of hours.
I bet.
Whew, I hope you enjoyed that, huh? Wasn't that fantastic? Hope you enjoyed the flight, folks, and we hope to see you around Tahoe.
Tahoe by name, Tahoe by legend. The Indians call her Big Water of the Sky. By the light of the full moon, they head for the summit, along with their children for spiritual ride. From Thunderbird Lodge to Vikings Home, the Funnet Island Tea House and the Captain's Ghost, to the graveyards at Glenbrook where the steamers went down, and the Queen of the Lake, oh, she's resting now. Cross on Tolaco when the snow falls. It's an autograph left and placed by the